Hello, I'm Lukeshardo, or Luke for short, amateur at everything and huge procrastinator. If you don't know who I am, which is most likely the case, allow me to introduce myself, which may or may not have been the whole damn point in this video. This is who I am, what I do, and some other crap. So without further ado, here we go. I'm a Canadian boy desperate to find a good hobby and something to live for since about 2017, with that obsession going ever since. Which is all the better when puberty hit, let me tell you. So I found that I was decent enough at drawing, animating, and character design that I decided to focus my efforts on improving my designs. And let me tell you, Photoshop is a godsend for this kind of crap. Previously known for many other names such as Lukeshardo and wow, I've really kept the same name for all this time. I had a couple other channels where I uploaded stuff on. Now, I'm not going to show you anything on those channels because I don't want to spend time repeatedly going through my 4-year-old videos in order to edit them all for this video, because I still have a life to live. But if you don't, which damn may well be since you clicked on this video, you can go right on ahead to my old channels and watch my old shite. I'm not stopping you. Anyways, during this prepubescent time, I made a variety of content across those channels, such as reviews, gaming, some commentary, and most importantly, story-based stop-motion content, which was my first attempt to share a story to people online. Emphasis on attempt. This would result in me wanting to become a story writer and designer, working on stuff such as video making, animation, and game design. Now for what I currently do. If it wasn't already obvious enough, I do animation-like stuff, plain and simple. Whether it's videos where I talk about things, or even... what? Like I would tell you what I have planned right now, would I? I just started this damn channel. Give me a damn break, damn it. I also developed a couple of games as well, namely Green Means Goal and Only One Obstacle, which I'll talk about in another video. These can be easily found on itch.io, which is mostly going to be the place where I upload games until I can set up one of those Steam distribution things or whatever. Until then, why not just, search me up on itch and download my games. They're free. You don't have to pay. One thing I eventually won't be able to escape are the comparisons that will be made between me and other, more popular, more talented animated channels who also operate in similar genres, who also use white circle-headed avatars. But hey, crap like this happens all the damn time. Almost everywhere you go, there's at least 20, or hell, 40 variations of the same thing on the market. Just look at smartphones. Lastly, I'd like to talk about stuff a bit more channel related. Content here is going to be a bit more mature than your average animated channel, if you somehow couldn't tell by the bit disclaimer at the beginning of the video, and the repeated times as I grab another naughty bad swear words, so don't blame me if you get offended by my language. Content will also be released around every Sunday, though since videos like these will take longer to make, they will be released around every other week, with smaller videos being released in between. Though this may not always be the case due to scheduling and/or other reasons. Call this a heads up just in case. I also have one rule that I follow when making content, that being no politics. Just because talking about it is like a death sentence and a good way to garner hate online. People can be pretty terrible when it comes to talking about this shit, and I'm not going to risk the outcome. I just want this channel and the crap I make on it to be creative, entertaining, and most of all, just damn fun, with nothing else getting in the way. So here's to the future. And with that comes the end of the video. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, why don't you like the video? Or stick around by subscribing and ringing the notification bell. Maybe you could also check out my new website to see everything else I do. Or don't. I'm not forcing you. It'd just be cool if you did. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Remember last video when I said I had a couple other channels that I previously used? Well, now I'm going to talk about them more in depth. Both of these channels were made back in 2016, starting with Lukeshardo SP, previously known as Legendary Nitro, and then Scarf Productions as Lukeshardo Go. Made back when I didn't really know what to do with my life yet. It was a time when life was less confusing to me, and I didn't pay attention to my future all that much, other than playing with Lego toys. My first channel got started in March, when I had a French project where me and my classmates had to make videos talking about our favorite YouTubers, or our own channels if we wanted to. Since I don't like sharing what I watch on YouTube to others, and I didn't really have a channel, I did the most logical thing and made my own using my old Gmail account. After that, I worked with my friend on making a video presentation talking about something I just made the day before, and doesn't even have any content yet. Well, all that changed later when I made my first videos introducing myself and showing off my custom Lego action figures. These are also known within the Lego community as mocks, or my own creations. This was then followed up by more figures and then my first holiday specials. Of all holidays, I just had to choose the most obscure one that I'm pretty sure is only celebrated in Canada. It was pretty much just a day off for students, so I went on a wild spree of making videos called the Victoria Day specials, which was supposed to end at 5 or 6 entries. This was until one of my friends came over to my place and kept on making me record videos, ending up turning the 6th entry into a whole damn mini-series. After that, I continued to make videos involving more friends and even family members until I introduced Lukeshardo Go in June, meant to be a secondary channel focused on gaming to write off the popularity of other spin-off gaming channels. While that was doing its thing, I then made a few videos taking a look at a Halloween costume I built myself entirely out of Lego. And yes, it really was damn uncomfortable wearing it. I then decided to be a bit more ambitious and made a series starring my creations in a stop-motion video that was meant to focus more on story, and it was called The Legend of Lukeshardo and the Wormholes, with the trailer for the first entry being the most viewed video on Legendary Nitro. It was a short-lived series though, since I never got around to completing the second entry for it. Then on Lukeshardo Go, I made a series called Trailer Talk, where I watched, reviewed, and compared trailers for various games. And by various, I meant just Skylanders games. The latest video in that series being the last video I ever made on that channel. It was at this time where I started shifting and changing things around, like my first channel, with the other being taken down from YouTube by me. The first channel started being shifted around more storytelling, due to me wanting to tell a more serious tale with my mocks. So I started working on another video that involved more editing and elements of stop motion, calling the project and renaming my channel to Legend of Lukeshardo, essentially a reboot of the series. This was until I just gave up out of frustration. So time passed and I continued developing the story and world of my characters. I then came back with a new look, new channel name, Flagship Productions, and a new series that tells the lore of the world I made, called Flagship Data Logs. Later making another series that tells the backstory of the characters I made, called Flagship Character Profiles. This was the closest I've ever gotten, until maybe now, into a consistent schedule, though both series were discontinued. I was even in the midst of making a new video in the style of my previous reboot, simply called Flagship. Months go by, and I made another video saying that Flagship will return, which he will, just not in the same way. I'm not wrong yet. Even more time goes by. On the 3rd anniversary of my first channel, I released a new teaser video showcasing a new 2D animated approach, renaming it to Lukeshardo SP. The SP being more important to the next thing going on, being the 3rd anniversary of my second channel. I brought that back and renamed it to Scarf Productions. Also, I never said this earlier, but during that changing phase, I privated all my old videos due to embarrassment, only bringing them back to celebrate the anniversary. And my friends begged me to do so. Thanks, assholes. After the anniversary, I uploaded a new video randomly, being a song I wanted to show my friends so that I can get their help in making it a reality. Thanks to them being in a freaking band and everything. This plan backfired and resulted in the song and video being memed on by my friend group. Thanks, assholes. It wasn't until a few months later where I finally debuted my first new animated video, called Introduction. This would be the only video on one of my older channels I'd recommend you'd watch, if only because it tells you what I wanted to do with the both of them at the time. Another video was planned for the channel that was supposed to continue off the last one's cliffhanger called Shadow. This video was in development hell since the scripting phase, which was redone like 4 freaking times, one of them involving the titular Shadow singing. This was then cancelled and I decided to restart fresh again, but this time on a new channel, being the one you're watching this video on, which you should totally subscribe to, by the way. It was due to me wanting to start fresh, and reasons regarding Kappa, I left the other 2 channels alone to history, seeing them as a benchmark in my life and a contribution to who I am now. Although this time could definitely be defined as cringy, it was also a time for experimentation and trying to figure out what I like. I'm going to contradict what I just said in my last video and tell you to go ahead and watch those videos. They're good for when you want to gather up with some pals and have a good laugh thanks to some things not aging well or being taken out of context. And with that concludes the history of Legendary Nitro and Lukeshardo Go. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Well, that was a fun few minutes going to my past a bit. And you know what else is? Checking out my website, which includes everything else I do, and my other social media. Link in the description. It would also be cool if you stick around by subscribing and ringing the notification bell. Or don't. I'm not forcing you. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Super Hot is amazing. The end. Okay, in all honesty, there's plenty of reasons to go out and play this series of games. Being the original Super Hot, the VR spin-off / sequel, Super Hot VR, and the original solo expansion, Mind Controlled Elite. Though, I'm just going to talk about the original right now. The others will come in a later video. For those of you who don't know, Super Hot is a first-person shooter indie game made in Unity by Team Super Hot. How creative. The unique gimmick here being that time moves when you do, meaning if you stop, time stops. Though it's not entirely true, time rather just slows to a crawl. Perfect for dodging bullets and lining up your own shots. It is a combination of strategy, satisfaction, meta-narrative, lore, and unique low-poly visual style. This game oozes flair while also remaining fairly subdued. It feels raw, yet restrained in all the right ways. It doesn't matter if you shoot an enemy in the head or toe. They will die and shatter beneath your feet all the same way. There's no kill streaks, scores, not including endless mode, not even a HUD, except for a small white crosshair in the center of the screen. It's just you and a level full of enemies, and you're just told to clear the room without getting hit. It's as stupidly simple as that. And the reward is the sound of those sweet sounding words, and being able to watch your run in real time without slow motion. Once you've easily gotten used to the mechanics and flow of the game, you feel like a god, toying with your enemies like puppets. I swear, this game is just catharsis incarnate. If I ever get stressed and need to lay off steam because I put hours of my life making content just so that no one ever watches it, I just play some Super Hot. Now that I'm done spending however many paragraphs of my script just gushing and rambling on about this game and how much I love it, let's talk about it in terms of game design. Because making 2 basic ass games and following Game Maker's toolkit apparently makes me knowledgeable in game design. So earlier I said this game is simple. Very simple. It's just you in a room full of enemies, and other than the odd story section, you were just told to kill anything that looks red to you, and make sure you don't get hit in the process. Adding to the simplicity, the game only makes you worry about 3 buttons that correspond to jumping, shooting, and grabbing, also being the main mechanics of the game. All of these contribute to the game's core gameplay loops, or in layman's terms, what the player does during the entire span of the game. The primary loop is the main thing a player does, such as jumping in Super Mario Bros., or in this case, shooting in Super Hot. The secondary loop and any other loops after that basically just add more depth to the primary loop, like adding tires to wheels so they can do their jobs better. Things like all the tricks you do in Mario games and the grabbing / throwing in Super Hot count towards distinguishing their gameplay loops from other games. This would already make it a good game, but I haven't even talked about its main selling point, the time slowing mechanic, hence the game's phrase, time moves when you do, or something like that. Perfect for lining up shots and dodging others like you're in the Matrix. Whenever you move, the enemies and bullets get faster. If you stop, everything slows down. It's a good risk-reward, while also adding tension, especially when an enemy has their gun right in your face, able to shoot at any moment. Jumping is a good in-between, slowing down time a bit while also allowing you to move. Now what's a good killing simulator without weapons? Most weapons have a limited use and can be thrown to stagger enemies. There's 3 types of weapons, being melees, guns, and throwables. Melees just allow you to kill up close and block bullets, those being your fists, the default, and a 3-hit combo, though they can't block bullets, a pipe, a bat, and my favorite weapon, the katana. No, I'm not a weep. The reason I like it so much is because it can slice enemies up and kill them up when thrown. It also doesn't have a limited use, so it can just go through entire levels, cutting people like a goddamn madman. Then there's guns, killing at long range and need to reload after each shot. You got your straight and reliable 6-shot pistol, a bullet scattering shotgun that has 2 ammo capacity, and a bullet spraying assault rifle that can't reload. Each gun has its strengths and weaknesses, and your favorites can depend on preference, or just a pistol. Lastly, there's throwables, random objects found in the level that can be thrown to stagger enemies. Now because of the sheer amount, I'm not going to list them all, though what I will tell you is that anything that's pointy, like darts, will stick onto enemies and can kill them when thrown at the head. Enemies will also be able to use and pick up all these weapons, except for the throwables, and use them against you, though theirs don't have limited use. So you have to remember how these weapons work and how to maneuver around them. Now, let's talk about visual style. Immediately when you see an image, you know it's super hot. Just like its gameplay, it's relatively simple, low poly characters, in a completely white environment with blue shading to signify depth. Compared to others, this game has a smaller color palette, almost monochromatic. The environment being white makes the characters and interactables stand out, which allows the player to focus on what they're doing without distraction or confusion. Anything red has the potential to kill you, and anything black can be interacted with. This also includes the player avatar. Now hear me out. I don't know if this was intended, but making the player avatar black could mean something more than just visual style. Since the game's narrative centers around you, the real-life person, playing this game as what is essentially an extension of yourself and interacting with the avatar by controlling its actions. Just like how you interact with the weapons, because what is a weapon other than just a disposable extension of the person? Just like how you can switch bodies later in the game, disposing of your previous avatar. But hey, whether intentional or not, it's a cool detail to have and good for theory crafting. Lastly, the story. It's essentially about some shadowy entity trying to get everyone to play its game so that it can absorb their minds into its system and create some sort of super hot cult. I think. Honestly, I don't know all that much about the story, but I do know that the entity made it so that everyone gets addicted to the game and spreads the word about it to others so that they can play as well. Wait a second. Shit. Thanks for watching this somewhat in-depth look at Superhot. I would talk about it more, but I can only do so much editing during a 1-week period per video. So, if you like what you saw, and you want to see me talk about the rest of this series, make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell. And if you want to see everything else I do, make sure to check out my website, which also has all of my social media you can follow. It was even updated so you can check out my older accounts. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Wait a second. Shit. I told you Katana's the best. Anyway, the success of Superhot spawned a VR spin-off and a solo expansion, being the subjects of this video. So sit back as I dive into Superhot VR and Superhot Mind Control Elite to see what changed from the original and how its gameplay was expanded upon. First, we have VR, which is its own game and not a simple VR version. This game has a more arcadey feeling than the original, and has a lot of changes to the gameplay in order to suit the medium, such as the weapons. Since you're almost literally holding them, it wouldn't really make much sense having weapons that require 2 hands to hold. So now all the weapons are modified to be held in a single hand. These include the shotgun, assault rifle, and katana, turning into the sawed-off, Uzis, and knives respectively, with the pistol not really getting any changes. Your fist can now also kill enemies when they get up close, instead of having to do a 3-hit combo. From what I remember, I don't think many of the other melees made it in though. Throwables are also back, still as the random objects found around the map. Joining these are the shurikens and the previously mentioned knives, both killing when thrown at enemies. Now that all of these are one-handed, you can now dual wield, which is basically encouraged by the game. So why would I even mention this? Next off are the controls. I'm guessing in order to avoid motion sickness, they made it so you can't move from one spot, which sucks because even though the movement options were limited in the original, it was still one of my favorite things to do. You don't even get a teleport move or anything. Granted, they also made it so you can physically move your body out of the way of bullets and block them with your weapons. So now you can really reenact the Matrix if you're confident enough. Speaking of physically moving your body, this wouldn't be as super hot without the time slowing gimmick. The difficulty can now get easier or harder depending on how you control your reflexes, because this game can immediately turn to bullshit if you just started playing and your base instinct is to shoot as fast as you can. We also have the throwing. Now, I have the PSVR version of this, glowy balls and everything, meaning I have to press the zigzag button in the center of the controller in order to release items. This wouldn't be a problem if I was just dropping something, but nope, I have to throw them. I don't really know if I can describe this without shoving a controller in your face through the screen, but trust me, it's not natural. Now, let's talk about the level design. Practically just a bunch of shooting arenas with, wait, color? What the? In between. And don't worry, I'll talk about that in a bit. Basically, you get plopped into an arena and shoot all the enemies. After that, you grab this pyramid thing and proceed to the next area until you end up in some hacker room. And for the first time in the series, there's more than just one color and white. I honestly don't know what to say about this stylistically, but what I can say that it is nice world building, especially when you reach up to put the headset on. Even though you already have a headset on in real life. Ooh. This all leads into the story. Instead of getting addicted to a game and manipulated by an entity into joining a cult, you're a hacker, part of a group who tries to take down this entity, hence the mention of ending up in a hacker room multiple times. Before I bore you with more speculation, I'm just going to link a game theory video because he does a much better job diving into the lore and shite I don't really care to talk about. Overall, this game just isn't my thing. It's got some neat stuff, but it's got some things that can get pretty annoying and stray just a bit too much from the original game. Though it's still fun, and speedruns are at least pretty entertaining. So don't take this whole thing as a negative, as I can at least see why this game did so well, and this is still a must-buy for any VR system. I just don't think that it's entirely for me. It's still the super hot we all know and love, so go try it out if you have a VR headset. Now, let's talk about the conundrum that is Mind Controlled Elite, called a solo expansion by the developers. Apparently, it counts as both DLC for the original and its own game. I got it as its own thing because I don't have the original on Steam. Oh yeah, I should probably mention that this game is currently in early access, and at the time of recording, I'm playing on the 4.0 beta, so things can change drastically in one way or another. Almost every time they do release these major updates, they effectively reset progress on the campaign because of the fact. Now, let's talk about what changed. The base gameplay hasn't really changed as drastically as VR, but there are some pretty big elements that have changed, such as progression. This game introduces roguelike elements, basically randomized stuff to make each run through a game unique. So instead of going from level to level killing every enemy in a room, you enter a cluster and go through a bunch of randomly selected levels, killing a certain number of enemies each. I think the number is 7 or 8. In between some of these levels are data cluster things that allow you to choose between 2 randomly selected hacks, or power-ups, such as throwables killing, instant reloads, and bullets bouncing off walls. Some of these hacks, though, need to be unlocked in the new Mario 3-esque level select, which also includes these weird text boxes about something. I don't know, you tell me. Also new to this is health. Instead of dying in one hit, you have 3 hit points, which can be extended to 4 if you find a hack for it. This is balanced out by you having to restart the cluster all over again if you do die, and trust me, you will. And you will hate the lack of checkpoints. but fortunately, you will get used to it, and you will feel more skilled for it. There's cores as well, sort of like hacks, except you select which one to use before the cluster. You can also select between all cores instead of 2 randomly selected ones. And you don't lose these if you die. Think of these as level buffs. And if you played the original, some of them could remind you of its challenge mode, which I forgot to mention last time. Sorry. Enemies are also changed. Instead of just plain red guys that are only defined by the weapon they wield, there's new additions to boot, such as white colored enemies, who are mostly indestructible and can only be killed by shooting their one exposed red part, whether that be their head, arm, or leg. There's also spiky enemies, who explode when killed, shooting spikes all over that can kill other enemies or damage you if you aren't careful. There's also these mine things, which can practically work the same as the spiky guy, but can't move, though it can explode if you get too close. Next are what I like to call bastards, because that's what you'll say when you come across one. As you go through the game, you'll enter these hallways that basically tell you to get fucked, because now these things are going to randomly pop up in your levels when you least suspect it, and give you a heart attack. Why I say this is because these assholes can't die and can ruin your run if you're not careful. Make sure you avoid them like the plague. The other challenge is the things they can do to catch up, whether it's dashing to you, throwing a katana at you, and downright switching bodies. Now, let's talk about the weapons. Other than the shotgun, none have changed all that much from the original. Once the shotgun is out of ammo, you can use it as a melee weapon. Now, for what's added, there's a new bolt gun, which has 3 ammo and shoots bolts that travel faster than bullets. You can even pick up the bolts to use as pointy throwables. Next is a returning shurikens and knives, which have been repurposed into throwing knives. Last is a new melee, the plank of wood with a nail. Last thing to talk about is the story. It's basically the same addiction plot as the original, though since finishing the beta resulted in an unlockable infinite mode, there's not much in terms of an ending, which I'm sure the developers would add eventually, as well as resetting progress again. And that's mostly it. Overall, I really love this game. There's not all that much that I can truly complain about, other than some nitpicks and the fact that it makes me fear that my Surface Go will explode. Though that's not really the developer's fault. I just wanted to take a jab at my laptop. I'm currently looking for a new one, but oh wait, I can't because of this fucking quarantine. And that's the Superhot series. A stylish, refreshing, and innovative shooter. It's unique and is the definition of simple, yet satisfying gameplay. The story here is like the story in the new Doom games. A bit confusing on the outside and secondary to the gameplay, but there's more to offer if you dive into it a bit. If I were to rank each entry in order from least to most favorite, it would be like this. But even the entries I like the least are still worth a look, because at its core, it's still the same satisfying gameplay. There's no wonder this series was able to get such a small yet passionate community on sites such as Reddit, Twitter, and Discord. I'm looking forward to seeing what more the developers have to offer with Superhot in the future. That's it for my take on one of my favorite game series. If you haven't, go pick one up, or even wait for a deal if you want to. Hell, I got the original with Xbox Live Gold. You'll probably be able to find a discount thanks to the you-know-what pandemic. And remember, mind is software. Thanks for watching, and if you like what you watch, make sure to like the video and comment down below what you think about the Superhot series. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell to get notified whenever a new video is uploaded. Also, check out my website to see more of what I do, which also includes where you can find my other social media, such as Instagram and Twitter. Anyway, I'll see you next time. What's Rec Room? Simply put, it's a VR community game, kinda like VR Chat, before VR Chat. For the most part, you go around different rooms and play a variety of different games. Or, you can just talk to different random people, and maybe even befriend them. Why did I decide to make an entire video based on this game and its Roblox looking ass? Well, like Superhot, this is one of my favorite games, though for a different reason. While Superhot is a really fun and addictive single-player shooter that maybe take a bit of a deeper look at game design, Rec Room actually helps with one of the major issues in my life. Wait before you go, cause don't worry, I'm here to talk about a free-to-play VR game, not get all sappy and depressing. I'm going to talk about the design of this thing, my history with it, and why it makes me happy. That's it. Rec Room is a first-person VR game made in Unity, developed and published by Against Gravity, now renamed to Rec Room Inc. They almost could have avoided this if they kept their original name, but now I'm just going to have to say it for the joke. How creative. When it was released, it was practically a glorified VR minigame collection with a hub area called the Rec Center. Later on, it got more and more updates that added more content, such as different activities, play modes, and different console ports. On Christmas of 2017, I got my PSVR, and on the day after, I found this random free VR game on the PlayStation Store. So I thought, why the hell not? I downloaded it and started to play it, and it changed my life ever since. This game is probably the only reason why I played on my VR as much as I do, as even with the screen mode coming out later, VR was still the best way to play. Now, let's get something straight. I'm an introvert, and I have some insecurities. I know, right? Hard to tell, thanks to my eccentric personality, and the fact that I constantly show my face around for all to see, instead of a shitty looking avatar. Look, I just don't do too well with others. Let's leave it at that for now. So I bet you would ask, mate, how would someone like you play and love this game so much? Especially since this game is all about constantly talking and hanging out with others. Well, that's a bit hard to answer. But I guess one of the reasons why is the community. The community is one of the best I've seen, even with most of the younger players. It's friendly, accessible, and pretty wholesome. I could easily just walk right up to someone, and we'd already be talking about the meaning of life a minute later. It's hard to describe how I feel while playing it. It's almost like I'm a completely different person. Seriously. My throat sometimes hurts at the end of sessions because I talk so much, which never happens in real life. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get to the custom rooms. Like many other games with custom level creators, Rec Rooms has an extremely wide range of freedom that keeps on getting wider with the more tools that get added. It's borderline insane what people have accomplished using this crap. You start off with a single block, and boom, you just made a full-on battle arena. People have made parkour maps, art studios, recreations and movies and other games, sculptures, and other art, and that's just scratching the surface. It's like Dreams, but with a whole other game attached to it, and it's in VR. Me? I'm more into design, not developing, and not too much into the nitty-gritty of things, which is why I haven't really done anything with Lukeshardo in a while. But I do like seeing what other people have managed to make. For context, I play in these custom rooms more than the official ones because there's just so many good ones out there. This kind of leads into the rest of the game's design. If you couldn't tell, it's got a recreation aesthetic all around, with activities being based off of sports, plays, and battle royale for some reason. This probably adds to the whole aura of community. It's like a small group of people gathered a bunch of cardboard and other props together to make games. I don't know if that's a good analogy or not, but let's just say it has a homemade feel to it. The character designs are pretty damn neat as well. They're simplistic, expressive, and fit really well into this game's art style. This goes for the puppet-like enemies in the story quests, such as the medieval orcs, futuristic robots, and pirate skeletons. And the player avatars as well. The avatars here are basically this game's version of the infamous Miis, blank canvases that can be customized however the hell you want to, whether changing physical attributes such as hair, eyes, mouth, and skin tone, or clothing-wise, with a variety of headwear, torso wear, gloves, and more. All this allowing you to represent yourself how you prefer. This also opens up some avenues for fan art, with a lot of possibilities for designs thanks to all the customization. Fun but useless fact, this was the first game I made fan art of, right when I started taking sketching somewhat seriously, and this being only one of the few things I make art of, other than Superhot and my shitty OCs. Now the controls. If one of the reasons I don't like Superhot VR is because of them, then one of the reasons I love Rec Room is because of them. It not only offers teleporting for those with motion sickness, but they also have full-on walking as well. More recently, they introduced parkour mechanics, such as sliding and wall running as part of their Stunt Runner update. We also have the handling of the objects, where Superhot VRs feels unnatural. Watch my last video to see what I'm talking about. Rec Rooms feels intuitive and second nature, especially since this game doesn't entirely rely on precision. And you don't throw using the zigzag button. Now, to keep this video brief, I'm just going to put up some diagram for them or something if I'm not feeling lazy. All of these feel so good to use as well. I'd probably even say these are the best VR controls I've seen for the PSVR. Though the screen mode controls can be argued otherwise. I mean, they did the best they could to emulate the VR controls, but they're still not the best, especially in feeling. Unless you're maybe drawing on an in-game whiteboard or something. I've seen some pretty good stuff made with an iPad and pen combo, or a drawing pad. Next, we have the developers, who are pretty damn good at updating the game weekly and constantly interacting with the community. Whether that's listening to feedback, running contests, shouting others out and mentioning their work, in-game or on social media, and generally being helpful, open, and talkative. Obviously, being a game centered entirely around community, you would expect the devs of the game to embrace theirs more than other companies. You'd find them most active on Reddit, YouTube, Instagram, and Discord, announcing updates and contests. They also bring on popular YouTubers within the community to help out with videos. Now, let's get back to the community. Like all communities, there's obviously some bad apples who think they're hot shit. Luckily, the developers also implemented multiple features to help mitigate this problem. These features include blocking, muting, and reporting, which is home to the vote kick function, where multiple people can vote on whether a person can stay or get kicked back to their private hub area, or dorm room, because of the theme. The website, rec.net, is pretty much its own social media app, also being able to connect to the game in ways such as accessing your profile, friends list, notifications, and chats, and being able to upload photos taken in-game and uploading them onto the site. Think of it as almost a diet Instagram. It's also home to a lot of tutorials and links to classes that allow you to learn certain mechanics in the game. The iOS version of the game also has some functions of the website as well before you enter the game. It also has notifications for chat messages, friend requests, and telling you if certain friends are online. The mobile app is good as a sort of accessory for the other two versions, though it's not entirely necessary if you're not too into the game. Overall, Rec Room is a fantastic game with a great community. It's a social game with a lot to do and a lot to uncover. There's so much to this game that this video is only scratching the surface of what's going on, and they're still adding more to it. If you have a VR system, or if you don't have one of those damn expensive bricks, and at least have a PS4, Steam, or iOS, then you owe it to yourself to get it. It's free to download and play, but the only thing to spend money on are completely optional microtransactions. And let me make this clear, you don't have to pay a dime if you don't feel like it. This game is perfect for when you still want to socialize, and you're stuck inside your house while a frickin' pandemic is going on. And with that, comes the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, make sure to like the video and comment below what you think about this game. Right now, I'm not planning to do any game-specific videos anytime soon, as I have more topics I want to talk about. So, if you want to see more of what I make, why not subscribe and ring the notification bell? It's as free to do as it is to download the game. Also, be sure to check out my website, where you can see more of what I do, such as artwork, games, and other projects. You can also find links to my other social media in the social section, which includes Instagram, Twitter, and my Rec Room profile. Anyway, I'll see you next time. What in the hell is a Lukeshardo? Is what you might be asking, due to it and me being so obscure. The reason I add "and me" to the sentence is because not only do I and this random red OC I created go pretty far back, but you could also say that he was a pretty integral part for some aspects, such as my own damn avatar apparently. It started out around 2014 to 2015. I was still into LEGO, meaning Bionicle and Hero Factory, Skylanders, and Transformers at the time, which mostly influenced my character designs while doing so. In one of these building sessions I used to have, I created Lukeshardo, a black and red robot with a gold helmet, 2 fire swords, and a red scarf with icy bits at the ends. Before, he was only just another character in a pile of dozens who looked cooler than him back then, not really given a second thought. Sometime after, I had a school project, I think it was English, where I had to write down a short story about a character. Being a frickin' megamind that I was back then, I used goddamn Lukeshardo. Though seeing that the character was human, I changed the name to Shard, renamed to just Caden later on, and even turning him into his own character. I used that name as a nickname for myself for a while, even using it as my PSN username when I got my PS4 in 2015. I later changed it to my current nickname when they finally allowed users to change their usernames after, 5 or 6 years since the damn thing was released? Anyway, I'm getting off track. Now, where was I? Oh yeah. After that project, I took more of a liking to Lukeshardo, even supplanting my previous favorites such as Silverwing, Camelio, and Sharpedo, who I also grew more of a liking to after school projects. I then used him in more school projects, and made him a sort of protagonist in my own stories. When I then changed my name to Lukeshardo, I just frickin' took Lukeshardo apart, and redesigned him into, what's basically, a damn self-insert, turning him blue and red with wing blades on his arms and a jetpack on his back, with also a familiar looking helmet design. This design was more or less based off of one of the characters from the newer Bionicle series. This was also right before I started on YouTube, meaning when I did, I used him as my mascot for the channel, also starring in the short-lived The Legend of Lukeshardo and the Wormholes series. It also started out my Instagram account around this time, posting these mocks and garnering some likes from the LEGO community. Later then, I brought back the old design and then called that Lukeshardo. I then tried to find ways to connect the two separate designs, also making sure to have it fit in the new story I was making at the time. After the multitude of disappointments and failed reboots, I ditched the Lukeshardo nickname and went to Lukeshardo, renaming the channel after him and making a couple series to explain this new story. Click the card to see what I'm talking about. Sometime in 2017, I also tried making a comic spin-off from Lukeshardo called Lukeshadow, which didn't really go anywhere. Though now that I think about it, it does kinda have some similarities to Lukeshadow. Yeah, the design lore really does run that deep, but hold on to your balls, cause there's more where that came from. Then in 2018, I made Lukeshardo Returns, basically just a load of bullshit and empty promises. Later that year, I drew Lukeshardo in a really simple way. I called it Simple Sketch, my dad giving him the more accurate name of Penis Head, because of the similarly phallic shape. I later drew another simplified version of Lukeshardo that year at a Montana's restaurant, this time a bit more familiar, being the first concept of what would later become my avatar. I copied that version onto my visual arts sketchbook. Then on Halloween, I sorta dressed up as that concept, even making those antenna things using some earbuds and construction paper. This, and Lukeshardo Shadow, would more or less become the basis for Luke's design. It was around this time where I also started to look more into game design, with the game initially being a 3D hack and slash starring Lukeshardo, and inspired from Transformers Devastation. The Platinum game no one but me can seem to remember apparently. I shared most of these ideas onto Instagram, and somehow people really seemed to like them. Wait, hold on. Seriously? You like goddamn text written in Google Docs more than a character sketch made in Photoshop? Fuck me. Anyway, later, as I would develop the game idea, I scrapped almost everything, and started from scratch, toning down my ambition a bit in order for it to be more feasible for me, also continuing to post them on Instagram. It was somewhere around this point where I just went, fuck it, and redesigned both versions of Lukeshardo and multiple other characters to fit with my new vision at the time. This time, I made them look more similar, yet still able to be recognizable from each other. I also named the jet design back to Lukeshardo to make it look less self-inserty. At the end of 2018 and until 2019, I went through this whole thing with meta and focused less on Lukeshardo, and that was really it for then, other than me getting more into sketching in 2D art and turning meta into his own character. It was then that I redid the sketch of my previous simple version of Lukeshardo. I renamed it to Lukeshardo and turned it into the avatar everyone knows and hates today. Close to the summer, I made a random YouTube upload that was a concept for Blazeshard called Ignite, which was memed on by my friends. Thanks, assholes. A bit more of an explanation for that in my old channels video. In the summer, my computer science class introduced me to Game Maker Studio 2, the same game engine used to make Undertale, home of the funny skeleton man. Sometime in October, I finally started development on Blazeshard, and would you like to see what it is? Well, here you go. Well, damn. Yeah. Like I said in my Recon video, I'm more of a designer rather than a developer, and I don't really like getting into the nitty gritty of code and all that crap. The most I did here was copy most of the code from my other games and watch a couple of tutorials on how to make double jumping and wall jumping, the latter being more questionable in quality. After that train wreck of a time making a demo, I quit working on the project, unlike my first introduction video that was worked on during the same month, which was released, and the follow-up was in development hell before being cancelled. During all this time, I constantly made art of Blazeshard and other related characters, through sketches, quote-unquote pixel art, and even 3D models that were printed out, thanks to my computer science class having a frickin' $2,000 3D printer in it. Now onto the present. Currently, I'm still working on the story and other design aspects of Blazeshard, but the project more or less put off to the side, and right now I'm putting more effort into things such as YouTube and my other project, Lukeshardo. I've also recreated the thumbnail of my first upload onto YouTube with my newer designs for its 4-year anniversary. This isn't the end of Blazeshard though. He still lives on, and he will return in full force someday in the future. This video was merely a mark for the damn beginning. And with that comes the end of this video. Thanks for watching the story of Blazeshard, and if you like what you saw, be sure to like and share the video, and comment below what you think the dumbest part of the story is. If you want to see more content like this, and you want to help the channel out, subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell to get notified whenever new videos come out. Lastly, if you want to see more of what I do, check out my website, where you can find artwork, games, and my other social media, like Instagram and Twitter. Also, I just made a new subreddit and a new Discord server, which can also be found on my website, so make sure to go check those out. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Hope you liked the video and stick around by subscribing to the channel. Yeah, stick around and subscribe. See you all next time. What? You're pissed because I canceled your video a while back, not following up on the previous one, and leaving you forgotten? Oh, I made you mute because I didn't want to voice another character? Okay, fine. I guess I owe it to you. Come on, let's teleport to the other wall. Oh, Shadow. Such potential. Such wasted potential. Yeah, I know. Who the frick is Shadow? I know how it goes at this point, seeing as how no one really cares about my damn OCs in the first place. Hint hint. And Shadow was practically buried amongst all my other dead concepts. But now I feel like bringing him back to the limelight for a bit, and make a full video talking about the history of this edgy the not hedgy. It started back with my cancelled 2017 Blazeshard spin-off called Blazeshard Shadow, a comic series that stars black silhouetted blobs, one of these being the titular Blazeshard himself, and the other titular character, Shadow. Because the comic was cancelled, much of the stuff in it didn't go anywhere. Most of the concepts got put into other projects, but the rest of them just got tossed to the wayside. Fast forward to around this month last year, I was feeling nostalgic and bringing back a bunch of old designs into newer sketches. I was starting to take drawing and sketching more seriously, so I started to practice more with pencil and paper. Designs I sort of brought back include both of my avatar designs and the Blazeshard designs from BSS, now nicknamed Shadow. It was when I redesigned Shadow to look more like my avatar that he started to gain a bit more significance in sketches I made with my avatar. He turned into a more sinister doppelganger of it, being put in the background to make some sketches more eerie, or used as an antagonist, or just there dicking around. So yeah, I started using him more for anything involving my avatar, and it was only a matter of time I'd bring it back after my first introduction video on my first channel, his appearance being teased at the end of it. After that, I started to make another video named after the bastard, and followed up on the last one. Now, if you've already watched half the content I made on this channel, you know what happened with this video. But for the vast majority who didn't, the Shadow video was delayed for a while, and then eventually cancelled after being stuck in development hell. There were plenty of reasons I wasn't able to get the video off the ground. Some of them include, I was too ambitious, I hated making the animatic stills for my videos, I hated editing, well actually, I still do hate editing, and the main reason, I didn't know how to write the script because of Shadow. I know, right? Me? Not being able to write the damn antagonist in his own damn spotlight video? Yeah. It turns out, I didn't know how to write for Shadow. I mean, I had his base concept kinda down, I knew what he is, but I just didn't know how to incorporate him into the video without it being too jarring for how my videos worked at the time. The script was a total mess, being the only one I had to completely rewrite like 3 times or something. One of them had the guy singing, with music being provided for it by my friend. But, due to various real-life reasons, he wasn't able to do so. Plus, I was the only one voicing for the videos, meaning I had to provide the voice for Shadow, as well as my avatar. And well, even now, some of the biggest criticisms I still get is caused from my bland-ass voice. So how do you think it was back at the beginning of the year? Clearly, it wasn't the right decision on my part. So yeah, it was a recipe for total disaster. Nothing was really going right for it, or the video, and even better, I was kinda in a weird situation at the time. Fortunately, even though I'm still sorta in that situation right now, I've learned to cope with it and move on for the most part. Also during this time, my mom thought it'd be a great idea to have me write a children's book. Yep, take my cool-ass, teen-oriented characters and strip up what makes them cool for a goddamn children's book. Because she just loves making me cast the widest net possible instead of giving me the freedom to establish a slightly older audience, eh? I was able to at least make a compromise, and make a story about my avatar character in Shadow. Take a sort of Diary of a Wimpy Kid approach with how it's written. Luckily, my mom forgot about it, and I was able to scrap it. Not much other than the initial concept, the reused title, and a piece of concept art that could have easily been seen as just another Avatar and Shadow sketch. Really came out of that whole thing. Speaking of stories, Shadow, BSS, and some of the stuff I already talked about in my underperforming Blazeshard video helped inspire the new story I'm currently cooking up, the similarly titled Lukeshardo. Well, I really do like using that word, don't I? Anyway, you can probably tell some of the inspirations if you were paying a bit of attention before. And if I revealed more of what the hell it is in the future. Who knows? So after that, Shadow was basically forgotten, only appearing in a few more pencil and paper sketches, including Halloween one, never getting a Photoshop sketch when I started using it. Which now leads us to the present and future. Other than the new sketch to announce that he's coming back and the aforementioned Lukeshardo inspiration, which is currently on my top priorities list, not much is really going on with him at the moment. I do have some ideas of what I'm going to do with him in the future. Maybe more cameos, maybe a larger role that doesn't involve singing, who knows. Like my last video, I'm going to end this one on a hopeful note, because God knows we need a little hope for something in our lives. And like I said in that last underperforming video, this isn't the end of him. He still lives on, and he will return in full force someday in the future. This video was merely a mark for the damn beginning. And with that comes the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, hit the like button and comment below if you want to see Shadow to be more prominent later on. If you want to see more videos in this series, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to be updated on more videos in the future. Lastly, click the link to my website in the description to see more of what I do, including games and artwork, and also including links to social media such as Instagram and Discord. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Hey, I'm back, and as you can see, my channel has gone through a few changes. Over the past few weeks, I've been updating various stylistic aspects, including thumbnails and my profile picture. This is all due to my changes and improvement in art style. You can already see these changes in my more recent uploads, which also showcase some new music that will play throughout future videos, including this one, because of the constant criticism people gave me saying my videos are too damn boring, which isn't really helped by my expressive and beaming personality. Also included is a new outro, which isn't really that important to point out, but I think it's nice not having to constantly re-record myself, plugging my website at the end and telling people to like, comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, recently, I was able to snag myself a nifty Asus TUF gaming laptop and BenQ monitor, which would make editing and running things way easier. No more having to wait half an hour for a video project to export, only for it to eventually fail for no reason. No more having to squint my half-blind eyes at a small-ass 12-inch display that HitFilm Express can't even fit on, or a 7-year-old monitor that only uses DVI-D, and no more having to suffer through terrible lag that can crash programs like Photoshop. And those are only a few of the problems I had with my last setup. But hey, it wasn't all bad, as with it, I was able to get my start on a few things like Photoshop. Though that's the only real compliment I can give it. All because I didn't do enough research, and cheaped out by a lot, I had to suffer through almost 2 years of Surface Go. Now with more ambition, know-how, and new equipment, I can now say with confidence that it's more of a possibility for me to make it up there in the YouTube space, and finally get to the 100 subscriber mark that I've been dreaming of for the past 4 years. Now, enough of that. This isn't called an update video, just for me to brag about my new stuff and crap on my old stuff. So here's what's gonna happen. Starting sometime after this video is uploaded, content in my main series will still be uploaded every other week, but this time on Saturdays, with Sundays as fallback days, instead of Sundays with no fallback days. More random and miscellaneous videos, such as Director's Cut compilations, will be uploaded on Saturdays between those weeks. Though this may not always be the case depending on how much of a pain in the ass making a video may be. Earlier this week, I made a poll on Instagram asking people whether I should start going weekly with the same level of quality as my past videos, or keep the same schedule as before, but with a bump up in quality, with the new upgrade and all. And, because you guys are great, I got a higher than average number of people voting in such an important poll. And, I guess as the old saying goes, it's quality over quantity. Content in my main series will stay fairly similar to before. I talk about a topic that I just feel like doing, with some light swearing sprinkled in for good measure. But this time, there's going to be some improvements. A bit more to look at, and a bit more movement, with less of a chance for my avatar to just be stuck in a corner, switching poses every other sentence. This may or may not apply to this video specifically, due to the short notice of my upgraded setup. Later on, I might do some more experimental content as well, seeing as my computer can now run some more powerful programs without much problem. And I might also consider live streaming in the future. And that's all I really have in terms of updates for now. Thanks for watching this new update for the new area of Lukeshardo content. I'm pretty excited and hopeful for what's to come. So I hope you can stick around for it by subscribing to the channel and checking out my website in the description below to see more of what I have to offer. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Hey there, if you want to support what I do, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Right now, I want to hit 100 subscribers by the end of the year, so it would help a lot. Anyway, that's enough begging from me for now, so enjoy the video. Character design is something I take great interest in. It's fun to learn about and figure out how it can be applied to creative projects. Now, to be clear, I'm still not the best at this stuff, but if you've seen my more recent designs on my Instagram, wink wink, I have improved a bit, so I feel that I can talk about what I've learned so far. Though something to note here is that although I have improved in my almost 3 years of making 2D character art, I still have quite a bit to learn and try out. I mean hell, I'm just starting to experiment again after sticking with a style for around 3 months. Thanks to my new setup and all. Okay, maybe I should stop talking about my setup. It's not like I made a whole ass video talking about it. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my growth and experience with making original characters. I'm also going to give a few tidbits of advice that help me become better at what I do. But make sure you do a little more research about what I'm talking about if you seriously want to get into character designs, and follow channels that can actually go into more detail about certain aspects, like this guy. I've actually been using the advice in his videos to help me out. It's pretty good, so go check him out. Now, with that out of the way, let's get started. As you may know, good-looking designs to serve a purpose for what they're created for don't just come out of nowhere. It takes tons of revisions, reworks, and modifications to get to a final product that everyone will be able to recognize and emphasize with. Due to this, the first draft will probably have around an 85% chance of looking almost nothing like the final design. Why would I only say around 85%? Because of the fact that most characters are built around and are meant to serve an initial concept or purpose. That purpose can be as simple as an NPC in a video game, or a mere rival of an existing character, or as challenging as making a fully fledged character with a real personality and backstory that has to be conveyed in a piece of artwork. This is where I don't really come in for the most part, as I technically started making my own OCs out of LEGO Bionicle and Hero Factory sets in 2012, and started sharing them online in 2016. At that point, I was in my designing infancy, which was still good, as it meant I was constantly making the most ridiculous damn things I could to see what works. Which also includes, this thing. Seriously, you deserve an award if you can distinguish anything going on here other than the head. It wasn't until around the time I started on YouTube that I started making more eye-pleasing and consistent designs. Which is because even though I still wasn't good at designing, I had more of a vision for what I want my characters to be. I even had some early concept sketches of these things at the time for that vision. Later on, I turned things around a bit, because this time, I actually wanted to take designing somewhat seriously, even though it was still LEGO. So I redesigned them, took half the color away, and made them look a bit more edgier than before. For example, here's one character before, and the same character after. Yeah, quite a difference. I also scrapped some of the more ridiculous concept as well. I mean, do I have to show you that jumbled mess again? Okay, cool, big deal. I had a change in vision and age a few things up. So what? Yeah, you're right. I'm getting a bit off track. So, I'll get straight to the reason why I made this video in the first place. Later on, I got really into drawing. Starting out with a pencil and paper, translating a lot of my LEGO characters into more original 2D designs. After that, in late 2018, I got my device which shall not be named, and dabbled into making more original designs, with some including Luke, Meta, and my first piece of fan art, which is my custom avatar from Rec Room, because it's a good game and I still liked it all the way back then. But because the drawing program was ass, I continued forth with pencil and paper and got myself a new sketchbook. Here is probably where I started going off on redesigning all my characters, with some going for a more Mega Man X inspired look. It wasn't until late 2019 until I finally got a taste of that sweet Photoshop, and started to really hone in on my style, whether that be for my avatar, humans, Automons, or Cygrids. Yeah, I know those names are stupid, but just go with it here. I also managed to give my characters actual color schemes as well, and test out shading, which looked legitimately awful, I'm going to be honest with you. Further down the line, I used my sketchbook less and less, mostly as something to help me get started with the design and do the bulk of the work on Photoshop. Now, with all that said, there's a pretty clear line in how I improved over time, and how I might do so in the future as well. Things like fixing up proportions, adding more variety in design aspects and color schemes, experimenting with new concepts, stuff like that. So other than just practicing, how did I manage to make my stuff look better than before? Well, here are a few tidbits that I learned that could help you improve as well. As I said earlier, iconic designs don't just appear out of nowhere. They take a while to get to their final designs, and you mean those are changed incrementally over separate entries and throughout the years. Some character designs can be so good and iconic that fans will get super pissed if there ever is a redesign, even if it does capture the spirit of the original, and especially when it tries to do something new. And whether the behavior is warranted or not is situation and character specific. Silhouettes, aka sliding the brightness setting all the way down, are pretty important for designs to stand out from one another. Things that would help would be large shapes sticking out of them, tweaking their poses to make more important aspects of the design more noticeable, or using bigger and less complicated shapes throughout the design. All this relates to posing as well, needing to be easy to read so that they can be understood more quickly. So what would you think would be easier to understand? This? Or this? It should be pretty damn easy to answer, but in case you're stuck, the answer is the latter. Speaking of shapes, they can also say a lot about a character and their personalities. Some of the more obvious examples include circles and round shapes equal cute and wholesome, rectangles/squares equals strong and sturdy, and triangles and other sharper shapes equal sleek and edgy. Another thing of note is color, the Roy G. Biv kind. If you wonder why you have a favorite color, this will probably explain something. Each color conveys some sort of emotion or personality trait. Some examples include red, which can mean anger and explosiveness, yellow, which is often bubbly and happy, or blue, which is calm and somber. As colors pack emotion in them, you should be able to choose a color palette that can describe how your character feels. Or even if the colors on a character don't represent how they typically are in the moment, you can make a background consisting of the colors of how they feel in that piece of artwork. Next is facial expressions. You should know what expression means what by now because you and everyone else have been making them their entire lives. But what you should take note of is how much your character would typically make certain expressions. That may sound a bit confusing, and trust me, it does, but hear me out. If your character is typically very serious, they would be more likely to have a frown and angry eyes. You know, the usual military guy. And if they're laid back and cocky in most situations, they would have a shit-eating grin on them or something. All I'm saying is, keep the way your character acts consistent with their personalities. The last main thing I want to talk about is clothing. What role does your character play in the story? Why do they wear certain pieces of clothing? Make sure the clothing is appropriate for the character's role and personality, and maybe have some of it be representative of something. Like me, I often put scarves on the more major characters, sometimes hiding the bottom of their faces for reasons I don't feel like explaining. But you can go ahead and try to figure them out if you want, I don't really care. All of these rules and tidbits may be set in stone, but they can also be a bit flexible, and be used to subvert people's established expectations of that character, like giving someone a tough-looking exterior only to be a complete softie on the inside, or using a smile to heap some deep sorrow. What the hell is that doing here? Take these as you will, but the main point of this is to help you make designs that look interesting and appropriate for what concept and purpose you're going for. Oh yeah, also have your concept and purpose for those characters in the first place, even if it's just for a single small-scale project that you'll forget about the next day. Just take my advice in consideration, and put a little bit more effort into what you're making, and you'll be able to make some great things later on. Also, again, don't just listen to what I have to say. Do some of your own research and follow advice from people who actually know what they're doing. I just thought it'd be neat to give advice from the perspective of someone who also has a lot to learn, but already has a good idea of what they're doing. So go out there, do what you can to make your concept look the best you can make them, and go on to learn more on how to make them even better. And yeah, that's all I have to say for this video. So thanks for watching, make sure to comment down below on who your favorite character designs are in any media, and why you think so. And no, huge features don't count. Anyway, I'm gonna go now. I'll see you next time. Before we get started, if you like what you see, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to watch more content like this and support what I do. Okay, now let's get to the video. Video games are my personal favorite storytelling media, and because of that, it's been my goal to make, or at least design one, ever since 2017. Now, although I technically achieved that goal 2 years later, my attempts haven't really been up to snuff with what I'm actually going for. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the history and future of my time making and releasing games. Just a couple of notes before I dive in. One is that this video will have some overlap with my Lukeshardo video from a while back. So if you're confused about some of the details here, then you should go and check that video out for more information. And two, these are all my experiences and opinions. So don't get offended if I say some things here that don't align with what you think about storytelling and such. Before all of this, I had multiple other attempts at telling a story, including a YouTube series, a written story, and a comic. All of these revolved around my mascot at the time, Lukeshardo. Sometime later on, I just had the random thought of wanting to make a video game based on the Red Robo Bastard, and as I realized that the medium is way more flexible, enjoyable, and immersive than other media like books or movies, since you actually get to take part in the story and control where it goes through a variety of ways, which is all the more evident when you plop down up to $1,000 for a VR headset and can literally insert yourself into a game world. So after that thought, I immediately started brainstorming ideas on what this Lukeshardo game could be, and ended up on a 3D third-person character action game inspired by Transformers Devastation, which is an underrated gem of a game that I'm planning to make another video talking about it. The story would also be the one from my previous scrapped continuity. You know, the one that was the focus of 2 YouTube series on one of my old channels. After doing that, I looked up a game engine and ended up with Unreal Engine 4. I downloaded the Epic Games Launcher and did just about nothing with it, because if you've been attentive throughout the video so far, I've never mentioned anything about coding, and that's because I had no idea on how to do it, and never regarded it during my thought process. So after realizing this, I stumbled upon Codecademy to, get this, actually learn how to code, starting off with JavaScript, which was one of the languages recommended to me by the site. I did the usual tutorials on it, and even took notes on what I learned. Yep, it was going neatly. Until I got bored with it the next week, and also figured out that UE4 can't really work with JavaScript. So what now? I mostly put the gig on hold and focused on other crap like school. Speaking of, Q Computer Science class, possibly my favorite class I had at school. Besides having a metric shit ton of free time thanks to the classes being so easy and done quickly, it had a few subjects that really piqued my interest, such as the case for the course that I chose myself, including a few that solely focused on coding, specifically binary, Python, and Java, which is very different from JavaScript, believe me. One of the subjects was even a project revolving around one Game Maker Studio 2, because why not use an engine that was used for Hyper Light Drifter, Levelhead, and goddamn Undertale? So me and a partner got to work on the project, with the first part being an Asteroids clone tutorial, which was easy enough, but as luck would have it, I had to go to Cuba during the second part, meaning half the coding was done by my partner. Anyway, the second part was just a simple 2D platformer, and if you've been with me for long enough, you'll know what it is. Once I got back, I relegated myself to most of the other stuff for the game, including name, visuals, and level design. This game was called GMG, Green Means Goal, and it was glorious. I was as prideful as could be when the game was completed. I showed it off to everyone I could, even after I realized that the entire project was basically worthless since it wasn't really marked at all. I even made a commercial skit for it with a group of friends for a media arts project, and it was equally as glorious as the game itself. I wish I could upload it, but I feel like a few people at my school would get pissed off if I did. So I'll just have to keep it in storage for now, but still, it's just glorious. After making the game, I made an itch.io account and uploaded my game onto the site. This led me to making a separate Instagram account dedicated to projects like GMG, which was promptly abandoned a while later because I didn't really have that much to offer on it. What was this account called? Luke's Project Scarf, or LPS for short. There. Now you know. You don't have to guess what the end of my username stands for. It was previously called Scarf Productions and other stuff like that, but I ended up with LPS because it sounded pretty good long and short. Nowadays, nothing really happens with it, but I want to do some other stuff under its name sometime in the future. The next chapter in this story begins with Game Maker's Toolkit, a YouTube channel that talks about game design and gives advice on how to do it properly. I followed this guy and his advice when coming up with stuff for Blazeshard, but I'll talk about that later. Anyway, this guy has a thing every year called a Game Jam, which is an event on itch where people make games centered around a theme for a limited amount of time. The theme for the GMTK Game Jam 2019 was Only One, which was a pretty broad theme. So really one can make anything around it. So in the 3-day limit I had, I got to work with GMS2 and talk to others in the event's Discord server. So, the idea I had was going to be only one obstacle. A game with, get this, only one obstacle that the player has no choice but to run into while being berated by an asshole narrator. The first day was mostly spent on making the script for the narrator, which went pretty well, but the other 2 days were more interesting. The second day, I started to actually make the game, including copying some of the movement and collision code from GMG. And this is where the fans start to get dirty from all the shit being thrown at it. Because the first thing to go wrong is the implementation of the text boxes, as the game relies so heavily on text. I had to try to put them in, which went horribly wrong, no matter how hard I tried and how many tutorials I looked up. Next, I had to go to my friend's band concert, which was neat, but damn was it a time waster. In a time where I couldn't waste any. After trying to figure out what to do for the text, I had a new idea on how to solve it. So on the final day, I woke up early to painstakingly make sprites and objects of each letter that was used in the script, all while under a time limit to upload. I managed to finish the game just in time and try to upload it. And then the itch servers crashed because so many people were uploading their games at the same time. So after that, I realized a few hours later that my game did manage to upload on itch. Both of these games can be found on my itch.io profile, and they're free to download for everyone. The second one may have a couple little bugs in it, but they're both pretty short and don't waste that much time. Lastly, I tried to make a demo for a new concept I had for a Blazeshard game. Most of it was recycled code from GMG, again, and some new stuff for double jumping and wall jumping, which both didn't work all too well. So yeah, I gave up on it. And that's really it for me in game making. Nowadays, I mainly focus on other ventures, and not as much for game making. Plus, I sort of changed my goals from game making to game design, which are two different things. Unlike general game development or game programming, game design doesn't require that much coding. And I realized later on that coding is extremely boring for me. Sorry if you like coding, but still. So, I decided to switch my goals more towards the design aspect and not focus on the code as much. The only thing I did more recently that could even remotely be seen as game development would be with level editors in games such as Mario Maker 2 and Rec Room. In the future, I'm still planning to have a Blazeshard game come out, this time under LPS, as a 2D Metroidvania beat-em-up made in Unity, inspired by the likes of Mega Man, Sonic the Hedgehog, and again Transformers Devastation, because that game is still an underrated gem and you should try and get it, even though it's off of digital stores. Just play it. It's good. Along with the shift in gameplay, it'll also have a whole new story to boot, completely different from the last one I had. Well, I did say it was scrapped earlier, so that probably gave some sort of clue. Don't worry, I still have that goal, and I still wish to achieve it later on in life. Just you wait for what's to come in God knows how many years' time. And yeah, sorry for the anticlimactic ending, but that's really all I have for this video. So, I'll see you next time. Hey there, if you like what you see, make sure to hit the like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel to help support what I do. Right now, my goal is to hit 100 subs, so I'd really appreciate it if you do. But I'm obviously not forcing you to do so, because views can also help quite a bit as well. Anyway, that's enough begging from me, for now, so let's just get to the damn video already. Later on, I might do some more experimental content as well, seeing as my computer can now run some more powerful programs without much problem. And you know what? Fuck it. What you saw there was frustration. Well, at least what you were supposed to see was frustration, rather than an unenthusiastic attempt at it, and you can see why I used an avatar. The reason being the lack of improvement and or quality in the content I make on this channel. Think of it like sports games, but it feels less like a cash grab because I can't get paid yet. Anyway, it's been about 2 to 3 months since I teased the whole using better software thing, and during those months, I've tried to make my content a bit better than I did with Phase 1. But you know what they say, you can't polish a turd all you want, it's still gonna be a turd. Okay. I can't be too hard on myself. At least I try to improve my content. I mean, I'm at least happier with my new content than that of which I made more than 4 years ago. And speaking of improvement, you can probably tell what I'm going to say next, and what my plans for the future will be. I'm going to start using this thing called Blender, which is not a kitchen appliance, but a free open source program that allows people to make 3D models and animate them. And in more recent updates, they added in what's called a grease pencil, which allows for more 2D elements to be used in it. In this new video series, I'm going to talk about my experience with learning how to use Blender, and the steps I took to transition into a 3D creator, in order to better the quality of my videos and further stand out in the YouTube sphere. So make sure you sit back, keep your ears perked, and enjoy the show. It all started quite a few months ago, when I just had the idea of transitioning my content into 3D using this program. Why? Well, I think it's pretty obvious here. But besides that, the other reason is for my content to better stand out amongst the sea of animated YouTubers whose content also looks way better than mine. I mean, I could just stick to my current style and just improve it over time, get a better mic, draw some new poses, and try to stand out more using my dynamic and expressive personality. But why would I do that? I gotta make up for that lost time sniffing Skylanders classic somehow. Anyway, I finally started to get to work on October 14th. I would have at least started after I made the teaser, but my lazy, procrastinating ass thought it'd be a good idea to wait until later, make a couple Photoshop sketches for Thanksgiving and my friend's birthday, and start playing Sonic Adventure, because why the hell not? So the first thing I did after downloading the program was find a tutorial series on YouTube, made by this good fellow. And I managed to finish the level 1 portion of that series, making a somewhat decent, yet a bit jank looking donut. Because the process was pretty smooth, I felt like jumping to making a 3D character, preferably by translating my avatar into 3D, because who wouldn't want their own 3D model to inflate their ego? But then I realized when I got to this point, after watching a workflow summary video by Blender's YouTube channel, that making a fully rigged character has a metric shite ton of work and steps involved. And in even better news, I forgot most of the stuff I did in the donut tutorial. This was mostly due to there just being so many steps involved in the process, and I forgot to take notes along the way while watching the tutorials. I kept on forcing on until I got to this point, where I eventually just gave up. Eventually I might get used to this whole thing like I did Photoshop and HitFilm, but here's the difference. HitFilm is somewhat similar to iMovie, which I had quite a bit of previous experience with, and I was taught how to use Photoshop in the classroom. Here, I'm not only learning how to use a program that's much larger than both of the other programs combined, but I'm learning it completely on my own, with nothing but online tutorials and hope. I mean, have you seen the UI for these two? Now tell me which one is more complicated and difficult to learn. And before, I could at least now remember how to use 75% of these tools and still get a halfway decent result. Here, I have to use so many of the tools and mess around with so many of the settings all I'd end up with is this fucking thing. So yeah, this has been quite a rough start, mostly because of just how unprepared I was to learn the sheer magnitude of crap within this beast of a free program. But now with my newfound experience, I'll have a bit more of an idea of what to do in order to achieve the new goals I set out for myself. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching this first entry into a new series that I'm hopefully going to continue sometime soon. So, I'll see you next time. Hey, I just wanted to give you a heads up that if you enjoy what you see here, make sure that you like, comment, and share the video. And, if you like the rest of the stuff on my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to see more of what I have to offer. It's free to do, and it'll help out a lot for the channel's growth. Also, I have a website that you can check out by clicking the link in the description below. Okay, that's enough begging from me for now, so let's just get on with the video already. So it's been a while since my last actual video, and even longer since my last update video. Since a lot has happened between then and now, I thought I'd make a new video to talk about all of these and more in better detail, as I'd bet you'd rather be listening to my enthusiastic voice than reading a large wall of text like I have to whenever I record one of these things. Now with all that said, let's get started with what happened last time. What was planned instead of just scrapped footage was going to be another learning Blender video, but because of how much of a frickin' pain in the ass trying to learn that program was, and still is, I thought it would be a better idea to just make a video only every once in a while for sanity's sake. And yes, there will be at least one more video in that series, because I don't like leaving it at just one video, after hyping up this thing like it was going to be a whole new direction. I mean, it will be, but it's going to be a very slow turn, if you get what I mean. What I actually uploaded was intended to be for a potential speed draw series that would go through my process of making some of my character designs in Photoshop that would have been uploaded in September. But problems with the footage arose, all because I used an iPhone to record it. And so, there were a bunch of issues when trying to get it to hit film. Because of the length of the footage, and that Apple thought it'd be a really good idea to have their file format for pictures and videos only really work on their site. So that was scrapped, but here's the end result if you've never seen it. Why didn't I just make any other video? Because of schoolwork, that's why. When I'm at home, I like to work late at night, that's just how I roll. So take a guess on what happens when you have a major project where 30% of your total mark due during that time. Well, it's simple really, you prioritize the project. And let's not forget, because on top of that, I also had to go to this virtual fair thing for college, where I played what was essentially a diet VR chat with frickin' tank controls. Really? What is this, 1995 or something? I mean, what they've managed to do was pretty impressive for what it is, I'll admit that, but the experience wasn't all that great for me, especially when I got my download link almost an hour before the event was supposed to end. Yeah, that was fun. All of this and that just amounted to unneeded extra stress that I had to deal with, and continue to deal with as a matter of fact, as I'm at a pretty pivotal point in my life that just so happens to be during a goddamn pandemic. God, this thing is just so convenient for all the wrong reasons, isn't it? Now, let's move on to something that's not as personal or depressing. Next off, I managed to make a couple new logos for my projects, those being Lukeshardo and Lukeshardo, which has been renamed to Xshadow for obvious reasons, such as it just sounding cooler and a name change for the protagonist. His name is Lux now, in case you were wondering. I mean, you probably weren't, but I just wanted to let you know. And speaking of projects, I've recently announced something called Simple Tunes, which is supposedly going to be either a comic, animated series, or both, because I haven't really decided on which one it is yet. But what I do know is that it's supposed to be a bite-sized comedy series with short skits and featuring an, honestly, quite simple art style. Hence the name, Simple Tunes. Duh. Oh joy, but Lukeshardo, I hear you say. You dumbass. Now you have yet another project that won't really go anywhere anytime soon. Well, that's where you're wrong. Because like my YouTube series, this is meant to be a much more simple venture. See what I did there? That will be easier to finish. Right now, the only problem I have is where I'm supposed to start with this thing. Other than that, I'm probably fine. The next thing I want to talk about is Rec Room, aka the only thing I use my PSVR for, and the only place I really have fun talking to people. Those who also play the game should listen up for what I'm about to talk about, which is the fact that I finally made some full-on zero template custom rooms, with each one being more ambitious than the last. The ones I managed to release were Luke's Graffiti Wall, which is a giant canvas that people can paint whatever they want on, which was later updated with 2 smaller canvases, which I like to call Virgin Boards, for those who complain about the size of the main attraction. These are for you, you jackasses. Next we got Luke's Overworld, which is a hub area that leads to all my other rooms, including the first couple I've ever made way back when. It gets continually updated with new stuff whenever new rooms come out, so I recommend you go there if you ever want to get started with my custom rooms. And my most recent room, which I actually managed to get a few friends to help with, Luke's Parkour PvP, which is a little condensed battleground where players utilize parkour mechanics and any guns they can find scattered around the place in order to climb up a leaderboard. It's a fun time playing with friends, so make sure you come here for your PvP fix. And by the time this video goes up, I was able to get started with working on another room. Though, all I can say here is that you should probably think of this one as Stunt Runner, but with guns. Yeah, that already sounds like fun. So, you just wait for what I have in store. And that's about all the Rec Room stuff I have to talk about here. So let's move on to something else before I drive away most of my audience. Okay, now for some minor stuff, such as playing quite a few games recently. Wow, me talking about games other than Rec Room or Superhot? What blasphemy. Ever since August, I've been getting more and more games from Steam, filling out my games library more quickly, mostly thanks to the sheer staggering number of deals that can be found on it. I mean, Jesus Christ, there's so many. Such games include a bunch of Sonic games, Devolver Digital games, and Ghost Runner, the first truly graphically intensive game that I've downloaded on something other than a console, and it runs fantastically. It just blew my expectations on that front. Other than that, I found the gameplay to be incredibly addicting. It feels like a combination of Superhot and Katana Zero, which probably explains something now that I think about it. It's balls to the walls hard, but the constant checkpoints and fast respawning, combined with the swordplay and platforming, was just fun through and through. Except for that one boss fight with that damn pillar that shoots lasers everywhere. That one took me way too long to memorize and get through. It almost killed my entire perception of the game. I swear, if it had an ass, I'd tell it to shove an entire continent up there. It's that bad. Other than that, the game is really solid. You should go check it out when you can, or at least try the demo out on Steam. Another minor thing, when this video comes out, the new generation of consoles, being the PS5 and Xbox Series X, would have made their debut around a week ago, which is great, especially considering the time we all live in right now. Seeing as my birthday and Christmas are almost right around the corner, I'll be waiting until then to hopefully get one, or both, of them. Well, I mean that and hopefully a mic that isn't $20. You might be asking why I'm getting a new console, despite already having a gaming laptop/PC. It's because I'm still a console player at heart, and I like playing games on screens that are a bit larger and farther away. And also so that I won't have to sit on a frickin' folding chair the whole time while playing. I'm telling you, those are the literal definition of a pain in the ass. That, and all my friends still play exclusively on consoles, despite all being epic gamers. Also, hey, if you somehow haven't noticed until now, I finally got around to drawing those new poses for my avatar. Sure, the design is pretty simplified, but that'll just help to better emphasize the poses I make. Watch this video right here to get what I'm talking about. As long as I have my face, gloves, scarf, and headset antenna things, what are they? I can't remember. You'll still be able to recognize my avatar from everything else pretty easily, because that's the power of good character design. Again, go check it out. I've had the old poses since late March, and my art style has changed quite a bit, so I think now is certainly a good time for a bit of an overhaul. I also made a small update for my outro as well. Yeah, not all that much has changed, but at least I don't have to worry about aligning the boxes in the video to the boxes with the actual videos in them anymore. And that's all there seems to be for that. So yeah, that seems to be just about it for the updates over here. All, or anyone else for that matter, can hope for is that everything can get better soon. Whether that's just personal troubles, or this whole damn pandemic for that matter. Just stay safe, everyone. Anyway, that's all I have for now, so I hope you liked the video, and I'll see you next time. Hey, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button on the video and subscribe to the channel. It would not only help out with the channel's growth, but also motivate me to further improve my content. I also have a website you can check out by clicking the link in the description. It has a bunch of my artwork and links to my other social media accounts, such as Instagram, Twitter, my Discord server, and more. Alright, that's enough begging from me for now, so let's get to the video already. Ooh, yeah, it's finally my birthday. Now, I only have to wait for one more year to not only become an adult, but also to be able to swear in front of my mom. Which is totally not an odd rule in the slightest, not at all. Anyway, as you could probably tell by the title and thumbnail, I'm turning 17 today. Which seems to be the beginning of the end of my teen years. And hopefully my puberty as well while we're at it. And the beginning of a pretty huge pivoting point in my life, where I now seem to be much more busy than I ever have been thanks to crap like school and eventually college. This probably wouldn't seem so bad if it weren't for what seems to be the catalyst for the worst year in modern times right now, ravaging all hope and making most aspects of life more limited and difficult, per se. It's often times like these where I just take a look back at life and just reflect on how the hell I managed to end up where I am now. Life, it's a weird, rickety roller coaster of events, major and minor alike, with bumps and slopes that add up and affect how one might act later down the line. For me, I was usually not all that risky when it comes to spending my time, often sticking near my consoles or Lego figures. One can say that this sorta had the effect of giving me some introverted tendencies. Well, that and other factors such as growing up as an only child. I bet that can do a few things to you. If I'm going to be honest here, I grew up with some unique circumstances. Definitely not bad ones, let's make that perfectly clear. I know that there are people out there that have it way worse than me, and I'm infinitely grateful for the people and things I do have in my life. Now, with all that taken into consideration, let's talk about some personal things that I know I won't ever be able to talk about in front of the people I know. Why, you may ask? It's because I don't feel comfortable talking about these things to others. You might say that's pretty unhealthy not to talk about what you need to, but hey, what can you do about it? Sometimes I don't think people need to know, or sometimes when I try to talk, I physically can't say the words I'm trying to say. It feels weird. It's like your body is holding your words back and replacing them with air. Not fun at all, it's a 0 out of 10 for me. Growing up, I've always kept to myself and never really cared about learning social skills. I mean, the first friend I ever made, I did so by grabbing his shirt because it had a transformer on it, and we just bonded over our love for the robo-bastards after that. That was in grade 1, and I'm still friends with the guy to this day. That sort of set the precedence for the rest of my time at elementary school. Always being the kid no one in class bothered to talk to, and when they did, it never really ended too well. This all leads into what can be seen as probably the salt to be poured into the gaping wound. I'd say, one of the biggest mistakes I think I've made in my life was becoming a fan of everyone's favorite Toys of Life series, Skylanders, which I'm probably going to talk about more in depth in a future video someday. I mean, I could have just stuck with Lego and gone on with my time, but no, I just had to jump right into the rabbit hole with no chance of getting out in the near future. In summary, I got borderline, No, what am I talking about? Completely addicted to these other pieces of plastic. That it basically became 75% of my personality. Whenever a new game would come out, I would make it my sworn duty to collect as many as I could. And did I mention these things would cost as much as $25 a pop, up to $60 for some of the variants? Now, multiply that by the number of figures in the series, and you can see why I regret this so much now. Besides from it fucking up my social status, or what little there was in the first place, making me the, let's just call it, odd one out, even amongst a group of odd ones out. I was treated as a little kid that somehow managed to get better grades than half the class. Take that, you losers. Only years later was I able to sort of shake this off in high school, meeting new people and never going into detail with them on this aspect of my life. Nowadays, the only remnants of this crap I still have left is a couple of boxes in the laundry room full of those little things. The only reason I still have them is because it's almost impossible to sell them. So, they just stay there as a burning reminder of my cringy as hell past. A reminder of why I can't talk to people as well as others may. I'm pretty sure the only saving grace for that period of time was after when the Skylanders games were cancelled, I got a VR headset for Christmas. And the first game I downloaded for it was Rec Room. With it, I managed to gain some confidence when talking to other people online, and even make some friends in the process. Granted, they all live in the US. Damn, that was hard for me to just get all personal like that. I mean, just put yourself in my shoes here after everything I just talked about. I typically don't like talking about myself in front of people like that. Yeah, I try to get myself out there all the time by talking about what I make and also letting it speak for me. That's kinda what my entire channel was made for. But when it comes to digging up those parts of my past, or what I truly think sometimes, it almost feels like what I mentioned earlier about being physically unable to say something, but for typing out on a script with a keyboard. Now then, let's talk about the other half of the title. Now what? Honestly, it's quite difficult to say. Thanks to these ongoing events at the moment, it almost feels like every glimmer of hope I have just has to get snuffed out thanks to either my insecurities or some random bullshit that I have no control over. At this point, it feels more like a pain in the ass than fun to make anything. And it's not like anyone would even care about the end product anyways. I'd be surprised if anyone even makes it to this point while watching. Yeah, I watch my analytics. I know what's going on. Other than that, as I get older, I'm able to better figure out what I want to do. Whether that means game design, animation, or whatever the hell this is. This is all so that I can tell the world all the stories stuck in my head. The ones I stay awake at night trying to think about. Which doesn't help my already bad sleep problems. It's all I have, and I can't think of anything else to go for in life right now. The only thing I know for now is that I have a goal to reach, and all I need to do is find a way to reach it, and pray for the best during the process. Anyway, that's all I have for this unfortunately overly negative video. So I hope you enjoyed what you watched, and I'll see you next time. Hey there, if you like what you see, be sure to press the like button for the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of what I have to offer, and help with the channel grow. It's free to do, and you could always unsubscribe later on if you wish to. I also have a website you can check out by clicking the link in the description below, if you want to see more of what I have to offer, such as a bevy of artwork and links to games. Also included in it are links to my other social media accounts, such as Instagram, Twitter, itch.io, and my Discord server. Alright, that's enough begging from me for now, so let's just get started with the gosh damn video already. It's that time of the year again, or at least it should be around that time when this video gets uploaded. So after the, somehow, overly negative birthday video, I thought I'd be a little more lighthearted and give my 2 cents on a pretty controversial topic. Yeah, it's a season everyone loves to hate, winter. It's a time of year famous for being associated with the most famous holiday, Christmas, and infamous for being associated with the biggest pain in the ass weather condition, snow. But honestly, despite how much of a health hazard this season can be, I still love it. In fact, I rank it above the season everyone loves to love? Summer, in terms of preference. So if summer isn't my favorite season, and winter is the second, then what's the best? The S tier. Well, you'll just have to find out later on in the video. For suspense reasons. How else am I going to get that view duration? Wait, what was that? So why do I like winter? And also think that it's a bit underrated. Okay, let's get a couple things out of the way first. As you would know if you've been keeping up with my channel, or just my last video, you'll know that 1, I'm Canadian, and if you heard anything about it here, the first thing this country is known for to a stereotypical degree is being really damn cold. Though this is the case, I'd say that we don't usually get it as bad in southern Ontario as other places do. Here, the lowest the temperature normally goes down to is negative 20 degrees Celsius, negative 4 degrees Fahrenheit, or more. And less important here is 2. I was born in December, which is usually the start of this mess in the first place, and is the month that seems to represent the winter season as a whole. I say usually, because like this year, it sometimes starts to snow as soon as late November, and lasts until sometime in March or April, give or take. With these facts, you can probably tell that there may be some bias on my end, but at this point, you should be used to it considering what happened at the recent Game Awards. And that's all I'm gonna say for that. I just wanted to let you know what kind of perspective I have before everyone starts complaining about my opinion. So before we get into the main point of contention, let's get to the cold first. Honestly, like many things in life, it's really annoying at first, but one can get used to them after a little while. All you really need to do is bundle up more with warm winter clothing, and you're good. Look, everyone has their preferences of whether they like it when they're cold or warm. Mine just so happens to include sleeping in bed with a fan directed at my ass on full blast, even when it gets colder outside. Yeah, you could probably tell which category I fall under, but that's just my preference. I prefer getting warm when it's cold out, rather than vice versa. Also, a good note here, depending on the temperature, one will wear clothes to suit that. And take a guess what I took inspiration from when making my avatar design. Other than these. But that's beside the point. I hate the heat. It feels like I'm in a damn microwave set to 4 months because of the sun. Anything over 15 degrees, and I'm staying inside. Especially when I have to go out and get sticky from the sunscreen and sweat. Especially during my teen years. I'm not even into fashion, but I also hate wearing clothes that I hate. Okay, that sounded dumb. And the lack of clothing I'd have to wear in order to survive outside. If you know me, you know how good I look whenever I wear shorts or in swim trunks with my shirt off. So you can probably get my point when I say that I don't like summer as much as everyone else. I mean, yeah, the vacation is great, but what is that going to matter when I eventually won't be able to spend it anymore and get stuck with this godforsaken heat? Also included our winter are the shorter days, not even counting daylight savings. Most of the time, it gets dark at 5 or 6 o'clock, which is fine by me, I guess, seeing as how I like to save my work for nighttime. This is also a case where summer doesn't tickle my fancy, God, what an odd phrase. How does one tickle a fancy? Or how does a fancy get tickled? Who knows? Anyways, I've held this off for long enough. So I think it's time to talk about the natural phenomenon that is almost universally hated, snow. AKA the white stuff that comes from the sky and causes people to slip on it all the time. Okay, well the latter is mostly meant for ice, but you get the point. Yes, snow. It actually doesn't bother me as much as others. I mean, yeah, it's hell to drive on, it's annoying to shovel off the driveway all the time, and it can quickly turn into a falling hazard if you aren't careful. But snow just has a unique charm to it. After it's settled and not actively falling from the sky, it provides, in my opinion, a better looking landscape / aesthetic than it would during half the other seasons. It's minimalist and can allow anything in it to pop out like it's a blank canvas, rather than just an overrated green and brown confusing mess. And as any child should know if they've played outside during recess, snow is pretty damn fun to play with, making snowmen and snow angels, snow forts, and much more. If I had any good memories during elementary school, it was when every time the winter season and snow came around. Me and my friends would go rolling around, making snow forts out of the little hills of snow, and making as big of snowballs as we could. Oh yeah, we also had little groups around these snow forts and an economy trading small chunks of snow. We even had little scuffles with other forts. Yeah, that was always fun. I miss that. And then high school just had to have come along, and I'm left with nothing but having to walk home in that snow, constantly slipping around. I even fell over in cartoonish fashion a couple times, which wasn't that many, but they occurred when I was crossing the road or right next to it. Remember when I said this was a health hazard? I still don't mind it, for the most part. The different landscape at least gave me something different to look at while walking. But there is a reason I put winter in second place. Because the first place isn't winter, certainly not summer, not even spring, but it's fall. Yeah, big whoop. It's definitely not as cold, the weather isn't as likely to kill you, and the fall leaves are easier to clean up and give the landscape a good aesthetic with all of the warm colors like yellow, red, and orange. Seeing as blue is a color I like to use, and orange is a good complementary color for blue, it provides a better color palette, and okay, yeah, you can see where this is going. Well, that was pretty anticlimactic, but hey, that's life for you. This wasn't really a video talking about fall, which is a pretty non-controversial season. This was a video that was in defense of winter, which I've heard quite a few people complain about. Plus, this is around the official start of the winter season. So if you want to complain about or defend winter / any other season, you can go ahead and talk about it in the comments below. Anyways, that's all for this video. So, I hope you enjoyed what you just watched in my last video for this godforsaken year. And I'll see you next time. Whenever that is. Okay, see ya, bye, happy Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year, whatever.